saying that they have these two photons. They're quantumly entangled. Before they were quantumly entangled, they had these percentages of probability, 100, 85, 50, and that's not uniform, like 100, 75, 50. They just show you this little part because they want to try to trick you. But you can see in both of these, you have oscillation. They are oscillating. They are going down to 0, then going back up to 100. They're just oscillating like a sine wave. These, you can plot these on a sine wave. And what is the B field and what is the E field? A sine wave. So that's why you get your probabilities oscillating, because all four fields, two in each thing, the polarizer and the light, are all oscillating. They take these, entangled photons, and one to one planet, one to another planet, and they put it through the, this one over through the polarizer, and they're still getting the same probabilities, 100, 85, 50. And you could, when I went over minute physics and one brown or blue or whatever, 3 brown video, what did he say? He said, and we know that they're entangled. Why do they know that? He says because for every photon that goes through this, polarizer, 85% that pass through, right? But on the other planet with this one, 15% don't go through. They fail. That's 85% for this guy and 15% for this guy. What's going on here? How does it keep the same? How does it know? How does it know? How does this guy know to be 15% fail and this guy 85% pass? How do they know? They're separated by planets. If you didn't quantum entangle the photons, you would get the same results at 22.5 degrees. 85% pass, 15% fail. So what is the proof that they're quantum entangled? If you're going to get the same results, you prove nothing. You just proved you're an idiot. You just proved that you put them vertically and then you moved them into other rooms. Who cares? Just like these coins. So I moved them into different rooms. So, you still get the same probabilities. They're not entangled. But this, getting the same result, whether you did it or not, that's not quantum entanglement, because it's fake, first of all, and two, like I said, you would have to have a different mixture when you split them up, right? Okay, first, let me tell you a little story. If I did this to you, what would you think at the end? I come to you and I say I have two machines that can quantum entangle any two things. Then I take out two coins I have. I have a quarter and another quarter. So I put them through the machine and I say they're quantumly entangled. And before this, I would flip this coin and I'd have 50% heads and 50% tails, and the same thing here. But once I got them quantumly entangled, I go over to your house and I say, hey, they're quantumly entangled. And you say, well, how do you know? I says, well, I put them through my quantum entanglement machine, but I'm not 100% sure. So what we're going to do is, so we take them to different planets, you know what I mean? You go here and I go here. And I say, we'll know after this test, experiment. And you flip it 100 times, this coin, and I flip my coin 100 times. And guess what? Oh my God, it's so freaky, man. Because when we're far apart, you get 50% heads. And I obviously have a quantum entangled partner on mine because I get 50% tails. Oh my God, they have to be entangled. There's no other choice or reason. Okay. What would you say to me? Would you say you're a total more? Because that's what he's saying. He's saying the same exact thing. But what a normal person would say is, well, yeah, this photon here had 85% pass. This one had 15% failed. But just like over here, they give you 3 data points out of 180, right? Just like over there, they're doing the same thing. This isn't the data points. This is the data points. This, meaning the top one, had 85% pass, but it also had 15% fail. Because it couldn't have 85 pass unless 15 failed, right? You know what I'm saying? And the same way with down here. It didn't 15 failed. No. That's half the data points. 15 failed and 85 passed. So it didn't matter if you entangled them or not. See, you already know that you're going to get a 50-50 heads no matter what. Whether even if you weren't, you never had that conversation with me with this entanglement stuff. You just took a trip to another planet and you had a coin. You would get 50 heads out of 100. Out of 100 shots. So not quantumly entangled. It's a joke, right? Because you would get the same results either way, whether they were entangled or not. Same over here. He said they line them up to the vertical, okay, and that's just arbitrary. They line them up to the same transmission axis, right? So let's pick vertical, and then they put it to two filters at 22.5 degrees. But if these were not entangled, right? Isn't that the result you would get anyway? You would get 85% pass, 15 fail. Or you can say you have 15 fail and 85 pass. Wouldn't you get the same results either way? Right? Because it's a 22.5 degree difference. Just like over here. I would get the same results. So why would I think that they were entangled? I'd get the same result. You would have to have a different result to prove that they were entangled. See, so he was disingenuous giving you 3 data points when obviously if he gave you more, you can plainly see it's oscillating. So you're probably, because your fields are oscillating. It would be weird if every field involved was oscillating and your fields were uniform. That would be weird. That would be a mystery. That all your fields involved are oscillating and your probabilities are oscillating. That's a common sense. That's not a mystery. You notice how he worded this. He says 85 passed in this filter, but this filter 15 failed. That's like me over here. 50. You got 50 got heads, and I got 50 tails. They must be correlated. But you can see, and then I leave this part out. You know what I mean? It would be different. See, that's what I'm talking about. See, if it would be different, right? And you got 50 heads, and we only did 50 flips. So you got 50 heads, and I did 50 flips, and I got 50 tails. Now they're quantumly entangled, right? Because you got a totally different thing. But they're not saying that. They're saying that there was 100. They're saying 100, just like over here. They want you to think that they put 100 vertical photons through a analyzer, right? And then 85 of them went to another planet. And then these 15 went to another planet. And then 85 passed and 15 failed. No. They put 200 photons through a vertical thingy. Then 100 of them go to, and then they're all vertical, and 100 of them go up to here, and 100 go to another planet. And then 85 pass here, and 15 fail here. Because obviously if I had, it isn't that you had 50 heads, and so I had, I'm obviously quantum entangled because I had 50 tails. No. You had a coin, and you got 50 heads and 50 tails, the same as me, just like anywhere else. Whether you stop today and you do it every year and then you add them up, or you do them in one day and add them up, or you split the coins up, it doesn't matter because it has to do with you have the same amount of mass on each side of the quarter. So you have 50-50 chance of getting it, right? And you're the one flipping it, so the flip is arbitrarily just random on how it's flipped. So you get 50-50. It's not magic, okay? Same with light. Put through a filter with a 22.5, degree differential. You're going to get 85 pass and 15 fail. If you did this up here, right, and you didn't do anything quantum about it, right? You just did your thing at your house, and I did my thing at my house, and we didn't even know we were doing our thing, right? You're going to get 85 pass, right? And this guy's going to have 15 fail. You know why? Because that's how that's why they're being disingenuous here. They're saying the one planet has 85 pass, but that means that they had, this is the 15. These two numbers correspond. these two numbers correspond. Why would you think these two correspond? If you believe that, then you have to believe down here that these correspond, right? You have to believe that the only reason I got 50 tails is because you got 50 heads. Not because I had 50 heads, and you really, yeah, you could have done this experiment anyway, and we both would have had 50 and 50 and 50 and 50. See, they make it sound like there was 100 flips, like, between us. That you got 50 heads and I got 50 tails, and that's the end of the story. This doesn't exist. Then, yeah, it sounds like, oh, wow, they are really, yeah, they're entangled. Yep, makes sense. But it wasn't that way. It was 100 flips for both of us. So the only way to make it quantum or entangled is if you got 100 heads and I got 100 tails. See, that doesn't normally happen. So I'd be like, whoa, maybe they are entangled. You know, every time you get one, I get the opposite. Now that's not, because this is not normal. We would expect 50-50, right? So me saying these are entangled because you got 50 heads and I got 50 tails is insane, because that's what we would expect, whether we were entangled or not. Same over here. We would expect if you have vertical light and you put it through a 22.5, that's what he's talking about. He says like the 50% one, and that's a 45 degree angle, you know what I mean? We expect have to go, yeah, but you're going to expect that anyway on a 45. Just like on here, you expect to get 85% and 15. So obviously when they do this, that's why they don't mention this part. They want you to think. They don't want you to think, you know what I mean? They just want you hear, just like over here, if you hear 50 heads that they got and I got 50 tails, well, that's unusual. That doesn't sound right. That doesn't, you know, maybe it's some time. But once you find out, no, there was 50, we each had 50 heads and tails the opposite way too. Yeah, then you're like, nah, man, come on, man. You just got to, it had nothing to do with each other. Just like up here. That's why he left this part off, because he wants you to think, well, 85% passed and 15, yeah, of course, but how could 85% pass if 15 didn't also fail in this experiment here? The same way down here. How does, you know, if you 15 failed, that's a percentage. A percentage is 100. That means there's 85, and there's only two choices. So the other 85 had to have passed, right? These correspond, not these. What? This is insane. It's like no matter if you are entangled or not, you will still get this 85. This guy's going to get 85-15, and this guy's going to get 85-15. I don't care if we're on different planets, just like here. If you have two quarters, I don't care if they're entangled or not. If you're on two planets, you're going to get 50-50. That's all there is to it, man. It has nothing to do with entanglement. But my whole point here is, if you believe that this is quantum entangled, then you have to believe that the quarter thing, the reason why I got my 50 tails was only because you had 50 heads. No, I got 50 tails because I flipped it 100 times and half of them were heads and half were tails. In the same way with you, it had nothing. I didn't affect you and you didn't affect me because I'm not God and neither are you. So you can't just affect me what I do on another planet, okay? Just by your thoughts, okay? That's what's so funny. They think their thoughts just rewrites reality. They tell you that they have quantum entangled photons. What? Where? Where at? How did they test them? When it's impossible to test to see if they are entangled. I mean, even if you pass, because they're saying that they'd have to pass or fail both of them, and every degree of, you know, you can put your polarizer at. Well, okay, so let's say you do 0 degree, 1, 2, 3, and they pass through 0 through 89 degrees. So 89 times they both go through the filter. But what about on degree 90? Both photons are going to be dead. You know, they're going to be absorbed, right? And you still have 91 degree to up to 180 degrees that you haven't done, you haven't checked. So my question is, and that you should be asking them, is how do they know that it's an entangled photon? Because the real answer, the reason that they know, is they're using their feelings and their feelings alone. That's it. It's based on nothing but feelings. And even if the photons both pass through, they put them through degree 0 all the way up to 180, but they saved the 90 degree for last, right? This proves nothing. Even if they all pass through, because each time you put the photons through another polarizer, the probability is reset.